Good morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day for those who celebrate, which probably everybody does in some way. I am Julie Hort, and welcome to Second Parish Unitarian Universalist Church in Hingham. Today we'd like to welcome Reverend Tom Schade. He was here in November talking about the UU principles, and we welcome him back today, and I'm glad that he can step in for Stephanie while she is recuperating. I have a couple of announcements of my own, and then I'll welcome anybody up that has another announcement. First of all, you'll see that there's an insert in your order of service regarding Easter plants. Feel free to fill that out. You can either hand them to me or you can put them in with the offering, and those are for Easter, and they are either in memory of somebody or in honor of somebody, so feel free to write whatever you want, and we'll print that in the order of service. The other thing you can do is you can email Sandy and let her know if you don't have an insert, or you could do it that way. The other announcement that I have is the Leadership Board will be hosting a Super Sunday next Sunday, which we've done in the past. We have 6 soups, depending on how many people sign up. Again, if you can let Sandy know if you'll be participating so we have enough soup for everybody, that would be great. And let's see what else we have. Also with the Super Sunday, feel free to come as you are. If you climb out of bed and want to keep your PJs on, if you want to wear sweats, we're come as you are next week, so feel free to do that. I'll be curious to see what everybody wears. No lingerie, thank you. And I do have some sad news to report. Our friend Dorothy Stewart passed away this morning, so please keep her family in your prayers. And is there one more thing? Book club is today, and if you're interested in attending, that will be after coffee hour. Are there any other announcements? Lisa?
Hello. I thought today was come as you are. So about the art show, we are still looking for helpers in a couple of the areas. So we need help with the publicity committee. So right now we have Robin is heading that up, and Nancy Troland has stepped up. But there's a lot to do, and it's a little overwhelming. And the more people that we get to do that, everybody gets a little piece, and somehow, it gets done. And that is also true for the raffle table, which has kind of always been my baby somehow. So I need help with that. And per usual, it's in the theme of like wine, chocolate, and gourmet items. It could be wellness items like a spa or massage as well. So if you have any place that you are frequent visitors to and you feel comfortable asking if they would be willing to donate an item, it could be a restaurant gift card for our raffle table. We set up a really pretty display and we highlight them. I wrote up something for you, suggested wording, so that maybe it's a little bit less overwhelming for you to ask. And I will have these available at coffee hour to hand out. And I can also email because a lot of times it's just easier to email somebody and ask for donations. Some businesses have only like a contact us, and then they limit you to this little box. And if that's the case, then you could just take the wording off of here and type that in. So hopefully that'll help you and make you a little bit more eager to go out there and get some donations for the raffle table.
Thank you. Lee?
I thought it was Come As You Are week too, Lisa, so you're not alone. Solidarity. Oh darn, we can be comfortable twice, 2 weeks in a row. I just wanted to mention to the kids that we have an exciting surprise today for Sunday Adventures. We have a face painter that's going to be joining us, and if you would like, you can get your face painted. Annie will be coming up with us, and she'll be using water-based paints that are very washable. I don't think there's any allergies or anything like that. So to help us really celebrate our theme of transformation this month, we have Annie, so yay.
Are there any other announcements? Okay, then let our service begin. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. And happy St. Patrick's Day to all those who celebrate, yes. Happy Come As You Are Sunday. I didn't get the memo, I'm sorry. Our first hymn this morning starts with the words, "Morning so fair to see, night veiled in mystery, glorious the earth and the resplendent skies." Those are words by Vincent Silliman, a UU minister of the last century. They ring true today as we wait for the skies to clear this afternoon. Spring seems to be coming, and not even at last. There are many terrible things to say about climate change, but I read an article in the New York Times the other day that said, yes, it's not your imagination. Spring comes earlier and earlier every year, and I'm okay with that. People love the first snow at Christmas, and some love the winter sports in January and February, but by St. Patrick's Day, isn't winter a guest that has overstayed its welcome? So we turn our thoughts to the future, to the world that today, like every day, is coming. Time is a river, and today we look upstream to see the future splashing toward us, splashing our way over and around the rocks fixed in time's path. Time then tugs at our ankles, and behind us the river of time flows away, leaving us behind. But this morning, before we do all that, I want to bring you a short poem by Joseph Schade, a contemporary American poet, a few years older than me, not many. Like so many poets, Schade traveled the world, and he wrote a long series of short 6-line poems about his adventures. And this one is about a train ride in India. I settled into the compartment. It would be 3 days from Benares to Madras. The Hindu across from me smiled, but we didn't speak. Everything I knew was on the other side of the planet. I had no life I could call my own, no miracles, no cure. 100 miles into the oldest, most worn-out landscape I had ever seen, the man clapped his hands softly together. And so, shall we speak of love? And so we shall speak of love on this emerging spring day. Come, let us worship together. Our first hymn is number 42 in your Silver Hill book, Morning So Fair to See. Folks who grew up in other Sunday schools may know the tune here. Nate is going to light our chalice this morning. Thank you, Nate. There are words here taped to the thing. Oh. We light this chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, for the light of truth and the warmth of love and the energy of action as we gather together in this circle of community. Thank you. And now let us rise and recite the covenant of your church together, which is in your order of service. With love for each other and with respect for each person's search for truth, we unite in the spirit of Jesus for the worship of God and the service of our neighbors. And Lee, I guess it's time for you. Look at this.
Yes, sweetheart, you can sit right there on the bench. Yep, right there. All right, you got some space, everybody. What do we got here? I'm backwards. Okay, you're good. I think I need more than one hand. Actually, Nola, where are you? Can you come on up? Actually need you earlier than I realized. Could you hold those for a second? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How about we do names? This is my new friend, Mikey. He just came to us yesterday. I'm wicked excited to be here. I'd love to learn your names. My name's Mikey. What's your name? Hi, Brooke. Hi, Whitney. What's your name, buddy? Hi, Robert. I'm Mikey. Hi. Hi, Caroline. What's your name? Hi, Annie. Oh, exciting. Hi, Molly. I love the pants. Look, I like blend right in. She's got purple pants, exactly his color. Hi, Brennan. Hi, Violet. Hi, Nolan. That's Caleb. Hi, Caleb. Hi, Molly. We got everybody's names? And hi, Nola. I knew that, but we wanted everybody to know. So sneaky. So, Nola, what does Nola have in this bag? Maybe you could open it up and maybe let them see it, or even touch it. You could go and let them go up a little closer. Now the Newell kids, don't say, because you brought them. Don't say what they are. You know what they are. The suspense is building. Dun dun dun. Does anybody have an idea what those are? Violet? Yeah. Molly? Seeds. Yeah, they're seeds. They're Caroline? They're milkweed seeds. Thank you. And they go right along with our theme this month, which is transformation. Today we're going to talk about how spring is a time of seeds that transform into little seedlings by some miraculous force inside of them. It's sort of like how your bodies grow, just like seeds. Your bodies and your likes and your mind, your ideas, they all grow and change. Like I bet at one point you liked to play peekaboo when you were a baby. You may not even remember that time of life, but I bet you all liked to play peekaboo back in the day. And now, how many of you like to play Minecraft? Raise your hand. Nobody? or any video games. Is this a screen-free room? This is amazing. It's a miracle alone. Jesus, these kids don't watch screens. This is a miracle. Oh, wait, do have screen watchers. Okay. All right, you play video games. Just 3 of you out of, wow, that's still a miracle. Anywho, you get my gist, right? You get my point? You used to play baby games, and now you're playing something different on the screen. Maybe you used to believe in fairy tales. Maybe, depending on your age, you still might believe in fairy tales. I'm telling you a lesson. If you listen, you might learn something, or you might not and just laugh at me. Either way, we hope you're entertained. One girl, I forgot what I was saying now. One girl described a myth as something that's not true on the outside, but it's true on the inside. So maybe you're changing your ideas of what fairy tales are. So anyway, this is quite a transformation of understanding. So it's not just your bodies that are transforming. You're not babies anymore. You're kids. Some of you are big kids. Some of you are teenagers growing up to be adults. It's not just your bodies changing. It's inside too. Things that you like, things that your ideas are changing as well. That's one of the biggest things that can change in the course of your life as your ideas, how you see something, your perspective. So I'm going to read a short story, a Sufi story, that's about change and transformation. Okay. Oh, I was going to use this, but we don't need those. Never mind. All right. Nola, can you hold that for me? I'll take this from you. Okay. A stream that started out, come a little closer, sweetie. That started out high in the mountains, was flowing and passing through every kind of countryside. At last, it reached the sands of a desert, this stream did. And just as it had crossed every other barrier, the stream tried to cross the desert too, but it found that as fast as it ran into the sand, its waters disappeared. They absorbed into the sand. But the stream was convinced, however, that its destiny was to cross this desert, and there was yet no way to do it. Now, a hidden voice coming from the desert itself whispered, can you be the voice? Okay, I'll be the voice. The wind crosses the desert, and so can the stream. The stream was like, but the wind can fly, and that's why it could cross the desert, but I can't fly. I'm just a stream. By hurtling in your own accustomed way, you cannot get across. You will either disappear or become a marsh. You must allow the wind to carry you over to your destination. But how could this happen, thought the stream. You must allow yourself to be absorbed by the wind. This idea was not acceptable to the stream. Ixnay on that idea. After all, it had never been absorbed before. It didn't want to lose its individuality. And once, having lost it, how did it know it was going to be able to become a stream again? How did it know its identity would ever be regained? The wind performs this function, said the voice. It takes up water, carries it over the desert, and then lets it fall again. How can I know that's true? It is so. And if you do not believe it, you cannot become more than a quagmire. But I cannot remain the same stream that I am today. You cannot, in either case, remain so. Now, when it heard this, the stream heard this, the echoes began to rise in the thoughts of the stream. Dimly, it remembered a state in which, or some part of it, had been held in the arms of the wind. Oh. And the stream raised its vapor into the welcoming arms of the wind, which gently and easily bore it upwards and along, letting it fall softly as rain once they reached the roof of the mountain, many, many miles away, where then it became a river. The end. Thank you, Mikey. We are going to talk more about this story upstairs and the idea of transformation and how you can't stay the same. You're always changing, whether we like it or not. So let's go on upstairs. And Mark, could you sing us out, or play us out rather? We'll sing us out.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Our, our responsive reading is number 639 in the Silver Book, the Gray Hymnal. Let me find it here myself. From the first letter of John. Let us love one another because love is from God.
Whoever does not love God does not know God, for God is love.
No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us.
God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them.
There is no fear in love, for perfect love casts out fear.
Those who say, I love God, and hate their brothers and sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God, whom they have not seen.
No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us. During it's marked as a solo, but during the organ, you're invited to write your joys and concerns on cards in your pew, and they'll be collected by the ushers to be read together.
going to read the joys and concerns today. We have a joy to be able to celebrate St. Patrick's Day with everyone near and far. Even in the rain, the smiles shine bright. It was a joy to run the Marshfield St. Patrick's something in honor of my friend Elizabeth, who passed away from cancer last summer. The sun was shining with a picture of the sun down as we ran by her beach house. Nice. A joy that my mother-in-law is back at home and doing well. And a joy for Paige, who is running the New York City half right now and is on track to finish at 11:11 a.m. Good for Paige. Please say a prayer for my friend Karen, who is in the hospital. May love and light surround her. Thank you. Prayers for the family and friends of Dorothy Stewart, a wonderful woman who will be greatly missed at Second Parish. It is with a mix of sadness and joy. Sorry, you all know that I do this. It is with a mix of sadness and joy that we remember Dorothy today. We are sad that she will no longer be with us, but we remember her smile, her beautiful voice, and her strength with such joy. Rest peacefully, Dorothy. Sorry, I'm not one to do that. And I'm not a public speaker, so thank you.
Let's sing together, Spirit of Life. I'm struck by the fact that you've suffered a loss in your community just today. And it will take some time to hold each other in prayer as we think of all of us who are carrying the heavy burden of grief today. This meditation is by Mark Bellatini. He starts, it's true. When our ancestors spoke of heaven, they were speaking of this moment. When they went on about nirvana, they imagined a time like this. When they sang of paradise, it was this morning they imagined. A time when all the mysteries of life and death are blended in a community of praise. When the bones of ancient lovers are given flesh again in our own bodies, and teachers of long ago speaking of love and truth, once more in lives so ordinary that they are extraordinary. Blessed is our breath in and out and quiet. Blessed is our sitting, our fidgeting, our movement. Blessed is our heartbeat echoing in the pounding alleluias of the distant stars. Blessed is the silence that is presence, not absence. With hearts full of memory and care for one another, let us have a few moments of silent meditation. And let us pray as Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. And now for the good work of this parish, let us take the morning offering. rise as you're able for the doxology. For our reading this morning, I've turned to the works of Muriel Rukeyser, who was a poet of the 20th century. She wrote this probably in the 50s, I believe. But she starts out, just to let you know from when she is writing. I lived in the first century of world wars. Most mornings, I would be more or less insane. The newspapers would arrive with their careless stories, and the news would pour out of various devices, interrupted by attempts to sell products to the unseen. I would call my friends on other devices. They would be more or less mad for similar reasons. And slowly I would get to pen and paper, make my poems for others unseen and unborn. In the day, I would be reminded of those men and women brave, setting up signals across vast distances, considering a nameless way of living, of almost unimagined values. And as the lights darkened, as the lights of night brightened, we would try to imagine them, try to find each other, to construct peace, to make love, to reconcile waking with sleeping, ourselves with each other, ourselves with ourselves. We would try by any means to reach the limits of ourselves, to reach beyond ourselves, to let go the means, to wake. I lived in the first century of these wars. I have a little mantra which I think whenever anybody asks me to think about the work of liberal religion, what it is that we're doing here, I try to remember that quote, "We don't make history, history makes us." Now, religion likes to think of itself as being that thing that never changes. Like everything else changes, but religion doesn't change. But actually, like everything else, religion and liberal religion is always changing, always transforming. We are in a constant dialogue with time and with the culture in which we live. And we wax and wane depending on how well we speak to the times in which we live. Are we delivering a message that resonates? Are we creating communities that fulfill people's needs? So the first question to be asked is the one I first heard asked by Grace Lee Boggs, an activist and theorist from Detroit. She asked the question, what time is it on the clock of the world? I think the big picture right now, and it may surprise you, is that there is a multiracial, multicultural, sexuality and gender expansive culture struggling to be born. not only here in the USA, but all around the world. The ideas of equality and liberty and personal self-determination have taken hold everywhere, and everyone claims them as their birthright. There is no one anywhere in the world of any ethnicity, class, or situation who would not say today with Jesse Jackson in 1988, I am somebody. You have to respect me. You cannot neglect me. I am somebody. Not a person in the world does not claim that for themselves. But of course, there's a fierce resistance to all of that. And so the world, as Paul says in his letter to the Romans, the whole created universe in all its parts groans as if in the pangs of childbirth. Words like Muriel Rukeyser's from another time and place, but accurate for today. The whole world is in the pangs of childbirth. The resistance is fierce and dangerous and will win, but only here and there, and only now and again, and only for an hour or for a day, but a new human culture is being born nonetheless. Now, I know that there are many schools of thought that are much more pessimistic than I am. And they look at those times when countries and cultures moved backwards. The 1870s in the United States, the 1930s in Germany, and they wonder if that's what's happening now. Or they look at the climate and our half-hearted response to that, and they expect the worst. But for me, I'm optimistic. And why? Because I was born and raised in this faith, our faith. And because hope and faith in humanity are deeply ingrained in me as a result. Hopeful, determined people who try to be faithful to the future are among the fruits of this faith tradition. And by their fruits, ye shall know them. Now, you leaders in a process which I'm not going to go into now, I talked about it the last time, are asking us to think about love as the central tenet of our faith. That we hold love not only as the end that we seek, but the means by which we seek that end. And that our goal is a worldwide, universal, beloved community. And that we work toward that beloved community in part by building communities that are learning laboratories where we learn to live without the habits of oppression. Communities which are networks of mutual care and communities in which we practice love, where we learn. Every time we do joys and sorrows in a congregation like this, we are learning the practice of compassion. We are learning to hold love in our hearts for people we know only slightly, that we just met, maybe. We're learning the practice of compassion. In communities like this is where we learn how to include people. We all learned that if we want to include people, we need to be less strict about how we label our restrooms, right? We didn't know that 5 years ago. We know it now. Now, whenever a sermonizer starts talking about love, it is customary to talk about the three kinds of love, right? The filial love of your family, right? Eros, which is usually described as romantic love. And agape, the love that is the universal love of all, for all. And usually at that point, the sermonizer starts talking about agape as what we're all striving for. But I want to go another way this morning because I don't want to give you the same sermon that everybody else gives you. Right? I want to talk about eros, not as romantic love, but as attraction and desire. Love that seeks pleasure, not just the pleasure of romance, but the joys of friendship and conviviality. Let me say it this way. Agape love says, I wish you well. I wish all people well. I wish you well, I wish you health, I wish you happiness, I wish you find peace, and I wish you find wholeness. Eros love says, I want to get to know you. I want to be with you. I want to be your friend, your companion, your comrade. You hear the difference? Eros is about interest and attraction and curiosity and pleasure and relationships and fun. So like when a new restaurant opens up in town that's serving the cuisine of a country you've never been to, why do you want to go? Is it because you want to signal that you have respect for all the cuisines of the world? Or do you want to go because you want to eat a delicious meal that you've never had before, that you want a new experience, that you're attracted to it? That is the love of which we shall speak. For many of the world's people, the hope of a beloved community is the hope that they will someday be free of the crushing burdens of systemic oppression under which they suffer. But for those of us who are more privileged, it has to be more than high-minded benevolence that brings us to loving our neighbors. We must awaken in ourselves and grow our capacity for eros love, curiosity, interest, a desire to know our neighbors better, our willingness and desire to plunge into community. So what does this mean for the second parish of Hingham? At this hour on the clock of the world, can you hear the groaning of a world in the agony of creation like the rumbling thunder of artillery at the outskirts of the city? How do we love our way to a new world? Listen to Muriel Rukeyser from almost 100 years ago in the first century of world wars. She describes herself as more or less insane. Now, we have to forgive her for conflating mental illness with feelings of anxiety and dread. They're two different things. Lots of people who are mentally healthy feel anxiety and dread. Mental illness is a different thing altogether. And it's kind of ableist to talk about, how something is making you insane when it's actually just evoking strong emotion in you, right? Strong emotion is not mental illness. She describes the intrusive din of the then just emerging media, newspapers, news pouring out of various devices. I assume then she's talking about radios. What would she think of the information environment that we live in today? And when she reaches out to her friends, her community, they're all gripped in the same emotional coils. She turns to her writing and she says, "In the day I would be reminded of those men and women brave, setting up signals across vast distances, considering a nameless way of living, of almost unimagined values. So here she's thinking of these people out there. We would try to imagine them, try to find each other, to construct peace, to make love, to reconcile waking with sleeping, ourselves with each other, and ourselves with ourselves. We would try by any means to reach the limits of ourselves, to reach beyond ourselves, to let go of the means, to wake. She's describing the work of community building, which is your work, your most basic and urgent work, which is to send signals across vast distances, to consider almost unimagined values, to try to find each other, to reconcile ourselves with each other and ourselves to wake. You've been doing the work of creating a congregation, building a community for a long time. 1742, I guess, is what it says on the, right? Not you personally. But now that work is becoming more necessary and urgent. Genuine community is the way that we grope our way to the almost unimagined values that underlie the beloved community that is being born. And we know that resistance to emerging beloved community comes from those who are isolated and alone, and who turn to distorted, exclusive identities as substitutes for community. Identities like whiteness, like coercive religion, like political cults. Substitutes for community that are held together not by shared attraction, but by shared exclusion, shared hatred. Liberal religious communities should be stepping up their work of community strengthening and functioning and formation, not only the deepening of our community within ourselves, but broadening our network of relationships, working to make your whole town a network of mutual care, a tight community that protects the vulnerable among us. So that means going beyond welcoming gestures to forging relationships throughout the whole community. Not just inviting all those out there to become part of us, but by us becoming more part of them. One way to think about this is to think about your Sunday morning worship as a worship service, a service to the community, a time and a place when whoever, like Muriel Rukeyser and her friends, are more or less mad, metaphorically, with anxiety and dread, a place and a time when whoever is isolated and alone, they can come here, spend an hour considering a nameless way of living, of what has heretofore been unimaginable values. You have to be the brave people who set up the signal across vast distances. That those people would feel comfortable coming here just for 1 hour out of a week, even if they have no interest in Unitarian Universalism per se. But just that this 1 hour they would be asked important questions. They would be given the warm welcome of people who want to get to know them. That they would have a moment free from the anxiety and dread which is our common everyday occurrence these days. What is to be done? Come together in worship that speaks to the whole community, bringing hope and comfort to those who are gripped by dread and fear. Create broader and stronger and deeper communities, not just among the like-minded, but the whole community. These are the tasks that time and history are calling us to do. In the words of the poet, reach beyond ourselves and wake. Let us join in singing hymn number 95. No, wait a sec. I'm lost. Okay. Hymn number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere. Thank you. In the Silver Book. My good friends, thank you for this opportunity to be with you today. And my message is that a new world is being born, and that world being born is the creation of all of us and many around the world, and that there's a force at work that's creating, that's sustaining, that's transforming. And that force is at work in the world, and you can trust that force. It will be with you whenever you work for justice, whenever you reach out to be a friend to the lonely, whenever you help someone carry the heavy burden of grief. It will be with you. It will sustain you. So go forth into this world brave, confident, buoyant, singing our pilgrim song. God bless you all.